Welcome to the All the Stuff podcast, where we jam about money, clutter, and food, and the real stuff under this stuff. Join me, Lisa Carpenter, your resident food coach, along with my co-hosts, money coach Jen Turrell and clutter coach Lisa Sharp, as we help you release what's weighing you down and heal your relationship with food, money, and clutter from the inside out.
Welcome to today's episode of All the Stuff. I am Jen Turrell here with Lisa Carpenter, our resident food coach, and Lisa Sharp, our resident clutter coach. I talk about money, and today we are going to talk about words, about the power of words, the words we use with ourselves, and the words that we use with others. Words are mightier than the sword, right? We've all heard that said. We've seen people like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all kinds of people fight full-on battles with words, peaceful battles with words. And I think that they can have a huge effect on the way we view our own goals and change and dreams and desires. And I am really excited to talk to you two ladies about this today. Who wants to jump in first?
Go for it, Lisa. If you're watching the video, we're both like, oh, I think if I start talking, I might not stop. So I'll let you go first, Lisa Sharp.
Yeah, no, I think this is so key. And it's not just the words that we use with other people, it's the words that we use with ourselves. And I would say that I have grown and matured as a person more in the last 3 years than probably the decade before that. And the reason is words. Like, I got really clear on how I was treating myself and what I thought I was capable of doing, and how those internal stories were really shaping my reality, that I had a tremendous amount of power that I wasn't acknowledging because it felt like I was sort of a victim of circumstance for whatever the thing was. And when I realized that the power was within me and that I could control and create a whole different way of being just by how I was talking to myself, how I was talking to other people, everything shifted. And it's not like it happened like, oh, this was a great epiphany. I went up on a mountain and sat there for 5 days and meditated, and that's what I came up with. It was more like, all those things that people say is actually true. And that just kept hitting me over and over and over and over again. It still does. I mean, like, I was talking with my coach yesterday about money and how I just had this really profound internal shift about how taking care of myself financially is equal to taking care of myself nutritionally, is equal to taking care of myself in terms of clutter and organization and having a smooth running life, is equal to taking time to journal. And that was a really big shift for me. Now, that might be really obvious to other people, but that wasn't a truth for me internally. And when we come up, it's like, you know, the saying is like oh gosh, I'm going to mangle this. What is, like the teacher will appear when the student is ready. I think that's the saying. And it's really true, because it's not like there isn't all of this information and wisdom already out in the world. But when we're open to it, when we're ready to hear it, it's like a tidal wave in our lives, right? It's like, oh my God, why didn't I see this before? This is so obvious. And then it just sort of clicks. And that, I think, and that's what's happened for me. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again in the last 3 years. And it's also made me very keenly aware of how my clients speak to themselves. And like, because, you know, I think you said the other day, Lisa, that your subconscious doesn't know that you're joking. And so, like, the things that you say, your subconscious just believes that, right? So if you're walking around talking about your big butt and you're just teasing, you know, just teasing in quotes, that you're really reinforcing the belief that your butt is too big. Like, what is too big? I don't know. It's kind of arbitrary, but, you know, it's like we do that all the time. Somebody gives you a compliment and you automatically deflect it. You diminish your accomplishments by saying, oh, it wasn't that hard. Oh, it wasn't that much. It wasn't that big of a deal, whatever, instead of just accepting it for what it is. And those things, they're really subtle, but man, are they powerful. And when we become aware of what it is that we're saying, we speak our truths all the time, right? And we people, I really believe people show who they really are. We just don't want to see it. So we'll like, oh no, he's not that bad, or she's whatever, But we really do tell the truth all the time. And like, if you're saying, my big butt, you really believe that your butt is too big, and it's really in there somewhere because it's coming out of your mouth, and those words are very powerful. So, just getting really conscious of, and this is definitely a process. This is not a aha and then you fix it. It's this slow uncovering of what it is that you actually really believe, and then sort of just sitting with it and like getting clear, like, oh, I do have more control over this. Oh, I have been playing this particular role, and I've been, stuck in this, or I've been doing this since childhood because I picked it up when I was small and I learned this from one of my parents or from a life circumstance or something. But that you can change those words just by how you're talking to yourself and how you're speaking to the world. It's really cool stuff. I think it's a great topic.
It's super powerful. So you guys both know that I am so passionate about how we think and feel about ourselves creates our reality, and that we have to take responsibility for that. So a lot of times how I'll get my clients to actually see how abusive they're being to themselves. And I know that that's a strong word to use, abuse, right? They're being abusive. But if they talk to their children the way they talk to themselves, if they really took that internal dialogue and turned to their child and talked that way, their kid would be like cowering in a corner, right? Like, it's abusive, yet we don't see it as being self-abusive. And that's how your words impact you. I talk a lot about stories, like the stories we carry, right? Like, I'm sick all the time. I'm tired all the time. I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to lose weight. And every time you're just reinforcing that belief within yourself. So Megan Hale, who's a friend of, I think, all of ours, she does the Enoughness Revolution podcast. So if you haven't checked that out, we'll add it in the show notes. She sent out an email this week in regards to mantras. And mantras were always something I really struggled with, because I'm like, really, I'm just going to repeat over and over, like, I am awesome until I feel awesome. But the truth is, when you start to tell yourself the things you want to believe about yourself, you do start to believe them. It is kind of that fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And how she described it, and I love this, and I'll be using it when I'm coaching my class coming up, is we tell ourselves mantras every day. They're just usually negative. I can't do that. I'll never lose weight. My butt's too big. Whatever it may be, right?
It'll take too long.
Yeah. I'll never pay my debt down, mm-hmm. right? I'm never going to be financially free, whatever it is. And when you start to flip that around and say, well, what if I created new mantras and new ways of thinking and feeling about myself, and really like started to catch myself in those moments? So for me personally, what I started to do was I write things on the mirror. I write things on my mirror. So for a long time, I had to write, I am successful on the mirror, because I had this belief that I wasn't successful because X, Y, and Z hadn't lined up for me yet, which wasn't the truth. But in order for me to feel successful, it meant I had to start telling myself that and owning it. The next one that I moved on to is I am capable, because I really struggled in school growing up, always as stupid. And Lisa's, kind of snickering at me because she knows this. I'm always want to like walk away from stuff instead of doing it myself. So saying to myself over and over again, I am capable, means that I give myself permission to actually sit down and try, instead of telling myself all the time, I can't do this, I'm not smart enough, I'm never going to figure it out. When I think about all the things that I can do now compared to when I started my business online, like the tech stuff, oh my gosh, like I could pull off a webinar tomorrow if I needed to. So it really is, first you have to acknowledge, and it's not that people are, unwilling to see kind of some of these stories. Sometimes they're just like, we're unable to see them. Like Lisa said, the light gets turned on when somebody shows up and says, hey, you want to look? Like I say that's what I do for my clients. I turn on the light and say, you want to look? And that's when you can start to really say, are these words that I'm using okay? is it okay for me to joke about my body? Is it okay for me to beat myself up? Is it okay for me to shame myself if I eat something that isn't, broccoli? So words are so powerful. They really are creating your reality. And I believe that we all have to become a lot more responsible about the things we're saying to ourselves, the things we're saying to other people, without trying to do it perfectly, because that doesn't happen. But I am a lot more conscious now of my self-talk, and it's really changed so much for me in my personal life and in my business life.
Lisa Carpenter, as you were talking about that, about capable and successful and all of that, I couldn't help thinking back to an episode we did recently where you talked about going into overfunctioning mode. For instance, when we started this podcast, and it was pretty much, at first, because I'd already done one podcast, I was going to do some of the stuff. And then as it went on, I was like, oh, my VA is doing that. Oh, I've got this taken care of. Okay, we're going to do this. We got this. And honestly, because we're all busy, I was like, okay, I'll, whatever you want to take care of is fine. I'd be happy to do some of it. But you jump into doing so much. So the idea of you thinking of yourself as not capable is shocking to me, frankly.
So what's really interesting about that is, in the past, I would have completely passed that off to somebody else. I would have taken my hands off and said, I'm not going to do this because I don't know how to do this. So Lisa knows this about me, learning how to set up systems and structures for myself, because I didn't believe that I was capable of that. And I still struggle with, a certain amount of systems and structures in my business. That's not laying out plans and following them through. I still have to work on kind of my discipline around that. And I don't really love the word discipline. So for me, getting this set up for us was a real test of me. Can I do this so that it runs efficiently? And now, honestly, Lisa did all the uploads last time, and I was like, wow, that was awesome that I didn't have to do that. So yeah, that will be happening more, which is awesome. But yeah, so it is, right? Like how other people see us and how we see ourselves can be radically different. And when I told my clients and this was in a big group coaching call, because when I show up and coach my group, Lisa knows this, that I'm very raw about what's going on in my life. I shared with all of them how I didn't feel like I was successful because my bank account balance wasn't matching, the courses I built, it's ridiculous, right? Like clearly I'm successful. But I was holding that out here. And it wasn't until I decided that I was going to claim that I actually really started to create that within my business. So yeah, we all have things up here that we need to rewire.
And I just want to jump on the word discipline for a second. Because this is what I've thought about a lot, because I have kids, which we all have kids. I also have kids with special needs. So the idea of instilling discipline. So here's my moment with discipline that I've come to. So when we talk about adults who are disciplined and who have discipline, it's a positive thing, right? You're a disciplined person. You take care of your responsibilities. You do what needs to be done. Maybe you have daily practices that you do. Like discipline seems to be a positive attribute. Would you agree with that? If you heard someone describe it?
Not always anymore. I don't put as much value on that anymore, because I see people who are too disciplined as being too controlling and not having high enough levels of self-care. So what I used to think like discipline and drive and ambition and hustle was like, I wanted that. Now I don't see it as having as much value. I think discipline is important in some areas. And I think being completely undisciplined is really important as well. So
and I totally agree with you. I think that's a great two sides of the adult discipline arena. But now let's apply it to children for just a second. And so when you talk about disciplining your children, or discipline at school, or corporal punishment, or it's all negative, isn't it? It's about how to control your children's behavior through a system of punishment is usually what people consider discipline, right?
I don't think I've ever used that word in my family around my kids' discipline.
I haven't really either. It's come up in discussions with school mainly.
School, they use that word. Absolutely. And that's where I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right. So because my kids have gone through this ABA therapy, which is applied behavior analysis, where you sort of track lots of things. And there are a number of times where rather than actually doing something to the child to change them, you try to change the environment around them. So we've been very focused on reinforcing positive behavior, reinforcing differential behavior. So basically like one of the behaviors we sometimes struggle with one of my daughters is screaming, like just screaming, not really for any reason, not really to communicate anything. But at school, it's very disruptive and difficult. So we will reinforce any behavior other than screaming. So anything she does, if she won't scream within this period of time, she gets rewarded. No matter what she's doing. She can be coloring, she can be watching her iPad, whatever it is, as long as she doesn't scream for, first 2 minutes and 5 minutes, whatever. So we're very focused on like the positive side, positive behavior support rather than disciplining. But then you go to a school environment with all kinds of kids, and it seems like anything that's out of a certain range of behavior, they want to discipline in a way. So yeah, just in thinking about with the school, like what the word discipline means, I have thought of that a lot, of like a disciplined adult, like a yogi. When I think of a disciplined person, I think of someone who does something religiously, kind of, there's this deep abiding need to apply some sort of standard or something. And yet with our children, it's all about control and punishment. But, maybe it's about control and punishment for adults too. That was just because you said that word, I was like, gosh, I've really struggled with that word discipline. Like,
what I love about that too is that all three of us have a very different take on what discipline is. And that's why words are so powerful, because what you say about something may completely land differently with me, right? So yeah, I find it super, super fascinating that a lot of times we're measuring our behaviors or even our self-talk versus somebody else when they see it in a completely different way than we do as well, right? So it's
true. And even though we all speak English, you live in Canada,
yeah,
Lisa Carpenter, where it's slightly different. And my husband is British. And I do find with my husband, there are these moments where we'll be talking about something, and I'm sure we're talking about the same thing. And then I realize he has a completely different take on the same word than I do. Like, okay, I'm not going to say the word, but in the UK, particularly in Scotland, there's a word that people use very, very loosely, the C word, and men will call each other it. All kinds. Have you never seen Trainspotting?
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought, to me, that's pretty much the height of offensiveness. It's like, if somebody calls me that word, I am extremely offended. It's not a word that I ever use, and I'm not going to use it right now because I don't want us to get the E expletive on this episode if I can help it. But you know what word I'm talking about. The female genital, it starts with a C. It has 4 letters. And
way to skate around the expletive.
Wow.
Yeah, I used all kinds of words except the word that I was talking about there. But I was talking with a friend who's American living in Ireland lately, and she told me about the first time she and her husband had a fight where he called her that. And she was so super offended. And to him, it was like, no big deal at all. Like, don't be such a C word. And
oh my goodness. Words matter. Words matter. We need to be paying attention to the words that we say to ourselves. We need to be paying attention to the words that we're saying to other people. And we need to be paying attention to the context. Right?
Yeah. And our children too. Like, our children hear us saying a lot of these different
Absolutely.
And to ourselves sometimes, if we're talking to ourselves, or shouting at the drivers in the other cars while we're driving.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
I'd like to challenge our listeners on this, because I think it's really important. When I first started working with Lisa Carpenter, I don't even remember what, I think it was like the very first time that we spoke, and we were doing sort of an intake, get to know you sort of thing. And I was talking about my body, and I was saying, oh, my knees are, and since we're not doing any expletives, I will say crap. That's not what I said in the conversation. Meaning my knees are, I've had 2 knee surgeries, and
I didn't know.
I have, yeah. So I've had some issues with my knees. But what Lisa said was like, are they really? Your knees are working. Your knees, hold you up and let you walk around and do all of these things. Are they really? And that was like the first chink in the armor for me about how I was speaking to myself. That was the first time that anyone had ever just really pushed back, because we all say these sort of things. Oh, I have a bad back. Oh, I always get sick. It's hard for me to lose weight. There's just this litany that is constantly going on internally and externally. So I really want to challenge our listeners to really get curious about what are these belief systems. I can never make enough money. I'll never pay off this debt. I'm such a disorganized mess. I suck at making systems. I'm always behind in my laundry. There's a million of them, right? Mm-hmm. But those are just constructs. Those are just beliefs. And while there might be a kernel of truth, yes, my needs are problematic. It's something I have to be aware of. Yeah, you might have too many, you're always behind in your laundry because you own 500 shirts. There is some legitimate kernel in there, but we extrapolate from that. We expand that. We'll take something and just spin it into this whole story that is really not indicative of reality. It's not really what's happening. And the fact is even if there's that kernel of truth, you can reframe it into something that's far more positive than you're telling yourself. Like I easily pay down my debt every month instead of, oh my God, I can't believe I have this debt. I'm fitter and happier every day because you've started a walking program and you're starting to work on it. You're starting to declutter your life. And, I let go of things easily and enjoy the process. There really are these mantras that we can replace these stories with that will exponentially improve the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we move around in our lives, because we have so much control in this arena. And it really starts with what Lisa said, with that awareness of what are we actually saying to ourselves, and just really getting curious. Where did this come from? Where does this belief come from? Oh, this is something that, Johnny told me in 7th grade and it really hurt my feelings. He's pointed out the cellulite on my thighs and I started hating my thighs because of it. There's always some little kernel, but really? So you're going to start hating your thighs because some kid told you that in 7th grade, because 7th graders are just jerks, right? We're all jerks at that age.
And would you say that to your own daughter?
No, of course not. Of course not. And then as we get older and we have kids, then our kids see that war we have with ourselves. They see that war of, does this make me look fat? Well, who cares if it makes me look fat?
They start judging their body because
exactly.
They hear that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's those lies that we tell ourselves and we believe them. This is a thing. We believe those stories and they act as blockers or excuses. So, and I'm just going to say this, and some people will be like, well, no, Lisa, I really am. I really do have this thing. I'm not arguing that. But within all these things that we have, I have debt. There's the truth. I have debt. But how I think and feel about that debt will determine how I take action. So if you're in an unhealthy body because you're getting sick all the time, and now you've got this thing, and now you've got that thing, and you're constantly telling yourself you're always sick,
right?
You don't take action on the things you can control, which is, guess what? You get to choose every morning when you get out of bed what you're going to put in your body and how you're going to move your body, and whether or not you're going to have a positive outlook or whether or not it's going to be doom and gloom. And sometimes it's not easy. I'm not saying be Mary Poppins every freaking day.
Right.
I have bad days where my mindset goes left, and that's okay. But I also know it doesn't serve me when that's going on. And speaking of somebody giving you a story and taking ownership, Lisa's heard this story, right? I had some kid who probably wasn't even talking to me, yell out a car window at me. This was back in the 80s with the feathered hair. And I have a big forehead. You see, I have a big forehead. And he yelled out the car window, nice forehead. And I literally took that as I had this ginormous, gross, disgusting forehead. And from that day forward, I never didn't wear my hair without bangs. And one day, one of my kids said to me, Mom, you should really pull your hair back. He was looking at Heidi Klum. So he's like, you should wear your hair like her. Why don't you ever pull your hair back? And my first thought was, are you kidding me? My forehead is ginormous. And in that moment, I was like, holy crap. Am I really going to let a story that I've been packing around with me?
Yep.
This is the truth. I'm hanging it over my shoulder. Yep. From the time I was in grade school, I'm a full grown adult. Whether I have a big forehead or not, it's mine. I'm going to own it. So it doesn't matter what size your thighs are. It doesn't matter what size your waist are. It's how do you want to be with your body? How do you want to talk to your body? Through the process of saying, it's okay to want to change it, but you can't keep beating yourself up thinking that I'm going to beat myself to submission and get what I want. I'm going to negative self-talk my way and abuse myself into paying off my debt. That's not going to work.
It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work. So,
but we keep trying.
No. Start journaling. Like, literally sit there one day and let yourself, because something magic happens when you put pen to paper, start writing out all the stories you believe to be true about your relationship with your body. I think I'm fat. I think I'm ugly. I don't care what it is. Just write it out and be with it. Be with the discomfort of seeing that on paper. Write out the stories that you have to do with money. I'm not responsible to handle my money. That's how I felt for a long time. I'll never be able to pay off my debt. I'll never be able to stop debting, right? Maybe it's around your clutter. I'm never going to be able to be organized. I'm not capable of da-da-da. When you've got that sheet of paper in front of you and you've got all of that stuff laid out, really sit and read through it and ask yourself, is that the truth? And what is it that you want to create for yourself? And start picking out a few mantras. So don't give yourself 100 new mantras.
Right.
A couple things in a couple areas that you really know, I'm not okay with this anymore. So for me, it was, I am successful. I am capable. And I've had many, 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 many more that I've worked through. But that's a simple place to start to let go of the crazy. And if you're really struggling with it, hire a coach. Hire a coach, because that's
seriously.
Our job. Like, that's what we do. We help you see what you can't see, and we shut it down, and we help you reprogram, not by like taking over your brain, but by literally helping you embrace this process of no longer being okay with talking crap about yourself.
That's so true.
You know, I heard the other day somebody say this on a call that I was on, and I thought it was such a great description of why we can't always do things for ourselves by ourselves. And the woman said, you can't see the color of your own eyes. You know, when you're looking out through your eyes, you can't see what color your own eyes are. So sometimes you need someone to shine a, you need someone to tell you, like, what is right there on your face that you can see out of, but you can't see into.
That's so true.
And we do all have these things that sometimes we just can't quite solve for ourselves.
Oh,
and I also think writing down all the things about yourself, I think that's a great thing to do. I recently just finished a book called Accidental Genius, which is about free writing. So I've been doing a ton of free writing myself lately, which is all about using your own words. And when you free write, it's, you know, you set a timer, you just go, you don't punctuate, you don't go back and fix anything. And sometimes you can get to places in your brain and ideas that you really didn't know were there at all. Like, I think it is the process too of actually writing it down is different from just talking it out.
Not typing.
So
not
true.
Typing. You've got to write it.
I do it a lot of typing, but
it's different when you write.
It kind of bypasses especially if you're purposely not editing in any way, and you think it's just for yourself, you're not going to show anyone, you bypass some of this editor that makes you acceptable and presentable. You can, it's a sort of deeper levels.
Because you're not worried about saying the right thing. You know, because we're constantly censoring ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the key, to write those lists without judgment. So don't write it and then think, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying that about myself. Like, just write it. Let go of judgment, let go of shame, let go of all of it. Nobody's going to see it. But you have to give yourself permission to see what's really there for you to start changing what's going to be there moving forward.
And I
replace
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, using new language to talk about your goals too, like where you want to get to, rather than my butt is too big, or I am no good at sticking to a diet, or I'm no good at not eating carbs, or I'm no good at paying my bill, or whatever those things are, but turn it around and use the positive language.
And I think we talked about that, didn't we, in the episode around moving towards pleasure instead of trying to move away from pain. So that's a good episode to go back and listen to.
And treat yourself like you would treat your children or your best friend. You know, speaking of mantras, I read a Gabby Bernstein book once, and it didn't really stick for me. The one thing that stuck from it was when I noticed myself having really negative thoughts towards myself or someone else, was this idea of saying, I forgive myself for having that thought. I choose love instead. I'm not even sure which book it was. It was several years ago I read it, but I really liked that because she was saying sometimes in this process of trying to notice the negative things that you're saying to yourself, you'll be like, oh God, I'm still doing it. God damn it. I can't believe I just did that to myself again. So then you beat yourself up for beating yourself up. Like you kind of pile more negative on top. So her thing was, notice that you did it, forgive yourself, but as you continue to notice it, you'll do it less and less, and you'll, instead of having to say, I forgive myself for having that thought, I choose love instead, you'll just choose the more loving thought towards yourself and your spouse and your, the children, the people who cut you off on the road, whatever. None of that needs to throw you off your game or off of being positive and kind to yourself. All of those things happen to everybody, and some people react really negatively and ruin their day. You can ruin your whole day by someone cutting you off, or you can just be like, maybe they're on their way to the hospital. Maybe someone's giving birth. Who knows? You can always make it a nice story instead of a bad story. They must have some reason. I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
Okay.
And I would say replace the judgment with curiosity.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good one.
Just come at it from a like, how about them apples?
Yes, that's there.
Wow.
Here.
I've never noticed that before. Oh, that's really interesting.
And good job noticing it.
It is interesting because it's all a part of us. We all do this. And the objective is not to eradicate this behavior because it will never be eradicated. That's just part of the way that we're wired. The purpose is to just get really conscious of it, to acknowledge it, to just let it be what it is without judgment, and to move on. That's the point. It's not, there's really nothing more to it. So, just getting aware of what those patterns are and, just being okay with it. Like none of us are like, oh yeah, we figured this all out. I never do that,
No, much less now than before.
And I think right now is a good time to talk to our kids about some of this stuff. I don't know about in Canada, but here in the U.S., there's lots of very negative public rhetoric going on. People very publicly saying very negative things about each other and other people and policies and politics and the world. So, it doesn't have to be that way. It wasn't always so publicly.
I think it's always a good time for this conversation.
That's true.
Words are important. What we say, what we think, they are really, really important. I think more so than our actions sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that would be a good topic for another show in regards to when somebody else says or does something that triggers you. And then, because it's really like people are going to have their opinions and they're going to say their thing. Yeah. And you're going to have your opinion and you're going to say your things. Yeah. And staying in your own lane and not picking up other people's crap and not necessarily judging them for having their perspective, even if you don't really like it.
Yep. That's a tough one. We should definitely do that one. Yeah.
Maybe we should wait till after your election when hopefully there isn't this huge migration to Canada.
Oh, Lord.
We'll be up here with our hot prime minister. Oh, and the British family the British family was visiting too. They like us.
Yeah. Your prime minister's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. So that's a good place to wrap our episode. I think.
Okay.
So tell us, you guys, what do you have cooking, Jen Turrell? What's new in your business world?
Actually, not a lot new right now. I am doing this podcast, still doing financial fluency. I have my monthly membership group, and lately I've been doing a video challenge, 30-day video challenge. So I've kind of been kind of caught up in all of that. Yeah, I don't have anything brand new launching right now. What about you, Lisa?
Well, by the time this goes live, I'm pretty sure I'll be in the middle of teaching my EAT program. So anybody who wants to kind of learn how to make peace with food in their bodies a different way without having to eat more broccoli, which, by the way, I hate, can head over to my website and grab my No Deprivation Weight Loss 3-part video series. And it really gives you a different perspective and gets you to pay attention to how you're actually feeling. And I think actually, Jen, that you went through that once upon a time, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, so that's running right now. So I'll get the link for that in the show notes. How about you, Lisa?
So that's, and it's such good stuff. I've done that. Challenge. Yeah, so I always have my Blueprint membership where we work on decluttering the house from stem to stern in 15 minutes a day, and is really, it's so much about self-care. So much about self-care and reframing how we think about our homes and our stuff. And I also have a 7-day 1-item decluttering challenge that you can get for free over on my website. Go over to clearcalmspace.com and sign up in the bar at the top, and you will start getting 7 days of very simple, very actionable steps to decluttering your house. I swear it's fun.
That sounds awesome. Can I throw one more word misunderstanding thing in here as we end? Sure. So, we have all this talk about self-care and self-love and all this stuff. The first time I came across the term self-love, I think it was in a Danielle Laporte audiobook. Have you ever heard Danielle Laporte read an audiobook? She has this very sensual, like almost tongue in your ear kind of voice.
Yes.
Said self-love. I literally thought she was talking about masturbation. And then I realized that, because I was kind of like, oh, is that what we're talking about? And then as it went on, I realized, oh, no. I'm not yet. I hadn't been so fully immersed in this whole like self-development world where self-love is just caring for yourself and taking care of yourself, not actually pleasuring yourself.
But that is a part of self-care.
That's true. It is part of it.
I just got to stick that in there.
You know what, Jen? I really appreciate you saying that, because I think sometimes I even forget that there are a lot of women out there that when you say self-care, they don't, and self-love, they don't even like.
I didn't know what it was.
It doesn't resonate. Right. So you've just sparked some inspiration in me maybe today for my Facebook Live.
And I do agree with Lisa. It is an important part of it, but it can mean so much more. It just means like, taking care of all
it's
mentally,
multifaceted, multidimensional.
Sexually.
We need to wrap this up, ladies, before we get the E on here.
Lots of layers.
Okay. All right. Good job. If you liked the episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. If you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe and comment below the episode. Let us know what you think. What do you think about self-love? What does it mean? And other words.
We've opened the door for some interesting comments.
Okay. Can we keep it PG-13, please?
Yes, please.
That would be good. Yeah, and if you would like a further discussion on that, come over to our private Facebook group where you can come join us and ask us questions. We are always in the group. We'll put the link to that in the show notes. And come bring us your ideas and thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.